Hello, and welcome to tonight's episode of The Bottom Line on Air. My name is Claire Sullivan, and I will be your host. Each week, we will explore our campus's current events and breaking news stories, and we are going to use this space to dig deeper and to elevate discourse and understanding and to put names to faces on FSU campus. Tonight is a very special SGA election episode with all four candidates running for Student Government Association President and Vice President. The SGA amended their constitution earlier this school year in response to student concerns that the eligibility requirements for president excluded the vast majority of the student senate. Under the new requirements, which include participating in a presidential debate and having a year in the Senate, the number of eligible candidates has dramatically increased. As such, Frostburg State University, SGA, will hold their first contested election in nearly a decade. We will chat with Ariyana Ward and Ismerai Reyes. Ariyana, a previous guest on the show, is the president of the student chapter of the NAACP, a vice president for the Virginia statewide chapter of the NAACP, a member of the honors program, and a member of the Brownsville Intersectional Committee. And most notably, she started the HOPE program that pairs marginalized students from Allegheny County with FSU mentors to assist their transition to college. The program raised over $10,000 in its first year. Running for vice president with Ward is Ismerai Reyes, an SGA senator on the Student Health Advisory Committee and member of the American Chemical Society, a brother of Alpha Phi Omega, and well known for her organizing work with Relay for Life at FSU as a member of the American Cancer Society. Following our interview with Ward and Reyes, we will chat with Delanie Blubaugh and Michael Hollingsworth, the opposing ticket. Delanie Blubaugh, also a previous guest on the show, has served on SGA for 3 years, first as a senator and now as the chair of the Student Affairs Committee. Among other leadership roles on campus, Delanie serves as the editor-in-chief for The Bottom Line and co-chair of the University System of Maryland Civic Engagement Student Leadership Committee. Running for vice president with Blubaugh is Michael Hollingsworth. Michael is the vice president for programming for Pi Lambda Phi and served as Pi Lamb's president last year. Michael also served as the vice president of programming for the Residence Hall Association from fall 2019 to spring 2020. Our questions today draw from student concerns posted online, lingering questions following the presidential debate that SGA posted on March 15th, and questions about ongoing initiatives. We have provided these questions to the candidates in advance, and we've dedicated the same amount of airtime to both tickets. First question. Student concerns about the dining options and cost and quality dominated social media last semester. As SGA president and vice president, how would you guys ensure that these criticisms are addressed by Chartwell's, also the Office for Student Affairs, and just like FSU as an institution?
Well, first I would like to say that considering me and Iz are the ones who kind of started all of that, especially like with the concerns, we also backed it up. We did the work behind the scenes with the food service committee. We've actually talked to CEOs of the organizations that we were complaining about, and we created kind of a with administration. So we have the food service committee every month, and we have the survey going out about the dining options on campus. So started something, we finished it. Not finished it, but we're working towards it. So basically getting those concerns addressed.
Yeah, she said it perfectly. We're still working on that, and we've done that before we even considered running. So it's something that we're going to continue regardless. As far as students, what they feel about certain Chick-fil-A and Starbucks, our biggest thing has always been we want to poll the students. We want to hear what they think and what they want to see. So at the end of the day, it's for the students.
So students have often said that SGA does not adequately represent them, and overall knowledge about what SGA does and how your funding is lacking. This has contributed to few students running in elections and overall apathetic view of the student government. So how would your SGA administration improve the situation between SGA and the student body?
I would start by saying we would student body a lot more. And I also feel like the biggest issue that isn't discussed enough is a lot of people are fearing joining SGA because they fear white supremacy is in SGA. So I feel that that can change if they see minorities run SGA. We have a very high student population that is of minorities. So it kind of makes sense if more minorities are represented in SGA. So if we are in there, I feel that would change. We'd get a lot more interaction with the student body just for showing that there's more diversity in SGA.
Do you have any comment on that as well?
Yeah, I think everyone's kind of tired of always seeing the same people in power constantly. So having a change of face, being able to see yourself in those positions, people that look like you, I think will automatically increase participation in our elections and participation in people wanting to join SGA. And I think also both of us are pretty transparent in the way we handle things. We're very public about what we do and why we're doing it, what we feel passionate about. So I feel like carrying that on into our administration and encouraging other senators and our exec board to kind of take the same attitude of being very transparent will definitely help increase and mend the relationship between SGA and the student body.
Okay, so thank you. Many students feel as if their major or department is not given like the same resources as others, say like the College of Business or emerging STEM fields. Those in the humanities say that FSU doesn't promote their successes or provide them the same opportunities the way that some other majors may enjoy. So what are some of the ways that your SGA executive team could support elevating those concerns and holding the administration accountable to ensure equity of educational opportunities?
So that has been an ongoing concern, actually. Ironically enough, I have been mentioning that a certain major is not accredited. Certain minors are not accredited while others are. So we've already been addressing that with administration behind the scenes because we are also tired of it. So I think that, that's something we're going to continue to do if we were to get into SGA, leadership. Keep demanding that every major get treated equally,
Right, yeah.
Yeah, we've also brought up that in a lot of these academic committees and subcommittees, not all the majors are represented equally. I think we both have noticed that there is a majority STEM professors on these committees, and that kind of influences their viewpoints on certain things because obviously not every major is the same. So academic decisions impact all of them differently. So that's something that we raised concerns about, bringing more representation of different majors and departments in there so that any decision that's taken, it's taken with the benefit of all the majors into account.
Mental health was already a major concern for students and the institution prior to the pandemic. However, in the last year, students have expressed accelerations in their mental health decline. So what do you guys think FSU could be doing better to support students in their mental health?
I would say that due to experience, I use CAPS. I utilize their service a lot. And this pandemic has took a toll on my mental health as well. And I did notice that there will be points where there weren't enough staff to see me when I needed to be seen, or not as frequently as I needed to be seen. So I feel that during this time, it would be very helpful if Frostburg had more staff and diverse staff, just so students can always have someone, or, someone who they could relate to, feel more comfortable talking to, just more options. So that's the first thing that I would want to work on. What about you, Iz?
Yeah, I agree. CAPS is massively underfunded. I think they have way too long waiting periods. There's not enough professionals there to be able to adequately deal with those large student population we have on campus. And then I would also say bringing just more awareness. Professors need to be aware that students sometimes don't feel up for certain things, that we also need to check ourselves mentally and have a mental health day sometimes. And I think also make sure there's breaks in the schedule. I feel like this semester in particular, we saw that a lot of us are burnt out because we don't have a spring break. Like a day in the middle of the week is not going to do enough. We really do need sometimes to check ourselves out and be able to just take care of ourselves. So I think making sure we do have enough breaks in the semester will really just overall improve students' mental health.
Issues of diversity, equity, and inclusion continue to present themselves at FSU. And while strides are being made, including the SGA's formation of the DEI committee, students continue to identify microaggressions, issues with professors related to gender and racial identity, and an overall dissatisfaction with the way FSU is commemorating the Black experience, especially around the displaced Brownsville Park Avenue community. What would you do as SGA president and vice president to support ongoing DEI efforts? And what new ideas would you present to address these concerns?
So this is the $1,000,000 question. This is why we are running in the first place. You hit it right on the head. We have all of these committees, but nothing is happening. We've been having conversations, but no action is getting done. And I feel like one thing that we have that the other candidates do not is the experience. We've experienced the actual bias, so we know what needs to be done. I feel like FSU, we are checking off boxes like, oh, we have a diversity, equity, and inclusion committee. Oh, we have one Black person here, and we have one, minority here, and all is well, everything's solved. That's not happening. So what we would do is actually address the issues, and the first way we would do that is by actually saying what's happening. I feel like oftentimes we tap dance about what's actually happening behind the scenes, because we don't want to have that conversation. We don't want people to feel uncomfortable, but in reality, Frostburg is rooted in a lot of racism, white supremacy, and it will never be addressed if we don't talk about it. So that me and Iz, we're not afraid to talk about it. We've already been talking about it. So if we were SGA president and vice president, that's the first thing we're going to do. We're going to acknowledge it, and then we're going to tackle it. Another thing that we would do, especially with Brownsville has a Brownsville intersectional committee that we go to religiously. And we have been for a while, where we do things such as caucusing. And I did notice that our other opponents were talking about caucusing, but this has already been in place and we've already been doing it. So what we would do is ask permission of the descendants to embed that with SGA and what we're already doing. So that can definitely help, because it's already been helping for the people who are in the intersectional committee. So that would be another thing. And that would also help get Brownsville reparations and get them the justice that they deserve, because they have not gotten the justice that they deserved. We would have a lot. I can talk to you about this all day, but these are the first steps that we would do. What about you, Liz?
Yeah, we're gonna quit like beating around the bush. Like, I feel like a lot of the times we have a general statement, a vague statement. It's not enough. It's not even addressing the core problem. And I think we've really seen that a lot in this election, that we're not addressing the actual issue that's going on, which is what Ari said. There's racism here. It's embedded into the culture here, racism, and there's a white supremacy hierarchy and all this stuff. So it's time that you have to feel uncomfortable. There's going to be conversations where you're going to feel uncomfortable. It's time for it to have those uncomfortable conversations. So that's it for that.
Also, I want to add this little note. You can't expect white supremacy to be dismantled by the white supremacists. I'm not going to get into that, but just think about that.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So
adding to that. Adding to that, I think this kind of is our leadership style. You can't dismantle the house with the oppressor's tools. I always go back to that quote, because you can't use the same tools they've been using. That's why it's time to switch it up. It's time to change it a bit, because their tools ain't gonna change anything. So that's why you need new people with new perspectives in place.
All right. Great answers, guys. Thank you. So the last topic I have for you guys is, what is one word that you would use to describe FSU right now? And what is one word that you hope to use a year from now when you are leaving office as SGA president and vice president?
I've thought about this question a lot. Honestly, one word to describe FSU right now, the first thing that came to my mind was hopeful. We are hopeful. We're not where we need to be, but we can be. We're not a lost cause. And the word that I would use, hopefully a year from now, with the right guidance, and what I hope to embed to the institution, would be comfortable. I want it to be comfortable for everyone, not just certain people. Right now it is uncomfortable, but there's hope. So hopeful and comfortable. What about you, Iz?
I think the word I would use to describe it is turning point. I feel like this election and everything that's going on is opening or if it's opening eyes, it's opening people's eyes to everything that's going on. And one word I would describe if we were to be elected afterwards, I just honestly hope it's just better than what we left behind, better than what we had before. I hope that people are able to look back and be like, look, we made genuine changes and genuine strides in the right direction.
Great. Well, thank you guys so much. You've given fantastic answers. I really appreciate it. We are so grateful that both you, Ariyana and Iz, were able to join us this evening to talk about your candidacy. Good luck to both of you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
The second half of our show is with Michael Hollingsworth and Delanie Blubaugh. Thank you guys so much for joining us, and we look forward to hearing what you have to say. So first question, student concerns about dining options, cost, and quality dominated social media last semester. So as SGA president and vice president, how would you guys ensure that these criticisms are addressed by Chartwell's and the Office for Student Affairs and FSU as an institution?
So there have been efforts over the last year, I think beginning over the summer and kind of culminating in the fall, to address these concerns about student food services that are offered to our students. What we would want to do if we were to become SGA president and vice president is to make sure that these efforts are continued to be maintained and carried out until students are not only happy with the food service offerings that we have, as in, you know, what different places can they access at Appalachian Station and everything, but also the quality of the food at Appalachian Station, at Starbucks, at College Avenue Subs, and at Chesapeake as well. We just want to make sure that, you know, they are happy with everything. And if they're not happy with not only our offerings, but also the quality of the food, we'll continue to remain in contact with Chartwell's about that. We also, at our first town hall, which was this past Wednesday, I believe, or Tuesday, one of the days, we had a student raise a similar concern about this, about not only you know, food service offerings and quality, but also just meal plans in general and the usage of bonus bucks and everything, because you can only use it at select places at, you know, at whatever time. So one of the ideas that we have kind of been spitballing and working on now is to have a partnership between Chartwell's and Frostburg First. We know that that's kind of been talked about in years past. I've heard it, you know, thrown around at SGA meetings before, but I'm not sure if action was ever taken on that. So hopefully this partnership will just provide students with off-campus meal options. For students on Main Street, they can use their bonus bucks or their meal swipes for that. So that is hopefully going to be in the works next year.
Awesome. So students have also expressed concern over the political leanings of some of Chartwell's corporate partners like Chick-fil-A and Starbucks. Will there be any movement in addressing these concerns?
So right away, I want to express that we support initiatives to replace corporate partners with unfavorable political leanings. While quick solutions to this issue might be difficult, because there is a standing contract between Chartwell's and the university. When the time comes to renegotiate, we're committed to making sure that the new contract would better represent student interest. And also in the time until that point comes to renegotiate, we want to make sure that we're supporting efforts to promote those voices, student voices, about the options and the quality of the food on campus.
Students have often said that SGA does not adequately represent them, and overall knowledge about what SGA does and how you're funded is lacking. This has contributed to few students running in elections and an overall apathetic view of the student government. So how would your SGA administration improve the situation between SGA and the student body?
So every student organization that I've talked to over the last few semesters has expressed concerns about recruitment, involvement, and transitioning online and ultimately transitioning back in person. Students are tired, and when SGA expects students to run, that has to be coupled with better outreach. I want to focus on engaging with other student organizations on campus, encouraging them to have their members run for SGA. But also a more grassroots approach like this could improve involvement generally and increase the number of students running for SGA. Essentially, I want SGA to reach out more, send speakers to chapters, meetings, events, sports events, to promote SGA and encourage participation.
Okay.
And going off of that as well, I think we really need to meet students in the middle, especially as we do return from this isolation. I think oftentimes because we are a more, business-like kind of organization, we, it can be intimidating when you show up to SGA meetings and you, in person at least, pre-pandemic, and you see us in our business casual or business professional, ensembles or whatever, and, that you hear this kind of foreign meeting procedure that we have. So I'd like to kind of take it a little bit away from always being so professional to being more casual and being able to reach our students, because, when we're in SGA meetings, it kind of feels like we're not students all the time and I'm sure that it feels that way for students watching as well. But, we are students and we are just like them, and making a more casual space for them to share concerns with us and share issues is like really valuable. We just want them to, realize that we're relating to them and that we understand, what they're going through and the issues that they're bringing to us.
Many students feel as if their major or department is not given the same resources as others, say like the College of Business or emerging STEM fields. Those in humanities say that FSU doesn't promote their success or provide them opportunities the way that some of the other majors enjoy. So what are some of the ways that your SGA executive team could support elevating those concerns and holding the administration accountable to ensure equity of educational opportunities?
So I've talked to a number of students about this concern, and also a lot of my friends, because I've got friends in departments that aren't poli-sci. And from what I have read and seen and heard is that that concern is entirely true, right? Political science, business, STEM fields do get a lot of more attention and a lot more opportunities for internships and things like that. I know that political science and the legal study or law and society have an internship coordinator. I don't know for a fact whether this is present in every department, but like that should be something that happens, right? Like we should have someone in charge of making sure that opportunities for internships and career advancement is available to everyone in the department, regardless of whether you're poli-sci, business, STEM, or in the humanities. And I'm missing a few, obviously, but yeah, that's my point.
And furthermore, we have the Career and Professional Development Office, and I feel like that is so underutilized so often. There are really dedicated staff members that want to connect our students with internships and career development opportunities and everything. And I feel like in different academic departments, there can be pockets of, like this certain area has, like Michael said, like an internship coordinator, but this certain area doesn't. And it's kind of like, we need to encourage academic departments to market those internships toward the Career and Professional Development Office so that they can offer them and reach them to, a broader amount of students, especially as we go back into, out of isolation and everything, and also utilizing alumni, like we are coming out of this isolation, we can see people again, hopefully in the fall, and we need to utilize every resource that we have. So Career and Professional Development Office, awesome alumni that we have, all of the above.
Mental health was already a major concern for students and the institution prior to the pandemic. However, in the last year, students have expressed accelerations in their mental health decline. What do you think FSU could be doing better to support students and their mental health?
Students are tired. Students are burnt out. I think especially not having an actual spring break this semester, going this long amount of time without any substantial break is, having a serious effect on a lot of students. Obviously, FSU has their partnership with UPMC Western Maryland to provide, more adequate mental health resources, but that partnership happened almost directly before the pandemic. So it's almost like they didn't really get a chance to completely operationalize on our campus before we were forced to be virtual. And so I think, especially as we start to navigate coming back to in-person, we need to look at our mental health resources. We need to make sure that, when the CAPS office closes at 4:30 or 5 o'clock every afternoon, that there are still resources for students that can supplement the mental health providers in CAPS office when it's closed. So currently, you know, we have the emergency crisis counselor, but what else can we do to supplement that? Especially because of the way that you can contact the crisis counselor is through the university police station. Students are not necessarily comfortable with that. And so how can we kind of provide them with a less professional, a less streamlined mental health resource where students feel like they're being listened to and related to from, you know, potentially their fellow students. I think it's all about, you know, caring for our students and making sure that FSU is doing its part. You know, we can't expect that students are always okay. We have to meet them in the middle. We have to provide them with things. We have to listen to them. We actively have to listen to them and their experiences and make sure that, you know, they're doing okay. We need to do check-ins. We need to do better.
Additionally, it's not just isolation and loneliness that's contributing to the rise of mental health issues for many students I've talked to. The transition to online learning has been a massive source of stress. People report things like poor instruction, outdated assignments, a dramatic increase in homework, increased difficulty for managing organizations. But then again, back to isolation, loneliness, anxiety, depression, all these things are caused by the situation we're in right now. We got to make sure we're taking care of everybody.
Issues of diversity, equity, and inclusion continue to present themselves at FSU. While strides are being made, including the SGA's formation of a DEI committee, students continue to identify microaggressions, issues with professors related to gender and racial identity, and an overall dissatisfaction with the way FSU is commemorating the Black experience, especially around the displaced Brownsville Park Avenue community. What would you do as SGA president and vice president to support ongoing DEI efforts, and what new ideas would you present to address these concerns?
The DEI committee. I'm actually a member of the DEI committee, and I've tried to contribute in whatever way I can to the issues that we focus on. Additionally, I've also served as the president and now the VP of programming for Pi Lambda Phi, which is an on-campus fraternity dedicated to the elimination of prejudice. We do events on sensitive issues in society. This semester, we've done some work on disabilities, and we're planning on working on mental health and women's issues as well. As SGA VP, though, I would want to make sure that the DEI committee, the Brownsville Intersectional Committee, UC DEI, NCNW, NAACP, and other groups all have the resources they need to succeed and thrive.
And one of those organizations that Michael and I have been talking about is the Berg Peer Education Network. I think it would be really great to, you know, promote them and the resources that they offer to make sure that, you know, students, no matter what background or, you know, what group that they identify with, that they are receiving, you know, proper mentorship and proper, you know, educational resources and everything. You know, it's really important that we make sure that we're providing what we need, what students need on campus, and, you know, making sure that they are centered around every discussion that we have.
What is one word that you would use to describe FSU right now? And then what is a word that you'll hope to use a year from now, leaving office as SGA president and vice president?
One word that I would use to describe FSU right now is exhausted. But I would hope that after a year of being SGA VP, I could leave campus, graduate, and look back and see FSU as hopeful.
For me, I would say similarly to Michael that, you know, FSU is just drained right now. We are drained of, you know, all of the energy that we have spent and, you know, dedicated to this campus for the last, what feels like forever, the last year of this pandemic. You know, we've been reaching and talking to people in whatever way we can and engaging as much as we can, but it's exhausting, it's draining, but we're so passionate. And I think that that's something that stands true now, and I hope will stand true, you know, if we leave office as SGA administration next year, that, you know, our students were passionate. FSU is passionate and outspoken and determined and dedicated to, you know, really provide the best and most equitable and inclusive community for all of our students, our faculty, and our staff.
Great. So that is all the questions that I have for you guys today. We are so grateful that both you, Delanie, and Michael were able to join us this evening to talk about your candidacy. Good luck to both of you. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thanks, Claire.
We want to thank our guests, SGA candidates for president Ariyana Ward and Delanie Blubaugh, and their running mates Ismerai Reyes and Michael Hollingsworth. To vote in the SGA election, log on to Bobcat Connect. The polls close in just under 4 hours from now, so please make your voices heard. This show is a collaboration between FSU TV3 and The Bottom Line. To stay connected with us, you can find The Bottom Line at thebottomlinenews.com and on Facebook and Twitter. FSU TV3 can also be found on social media and at frostburg.edu/FSU TV3. Thank you for joining us. My name is Claire Sullivan, and this has been The Bottom Line on Air. Good night.